So my name is David Grande. I'm running for the Green Party of Ontario here in Scarborough Southwest. I believe I'm the best candidate for this riding because I have an understanding of Scarborough first and foremost. I grew up in Scarborough. I spent the first 20 some odd years up there in Scarborough Agincourt, that is. I'm aware of the unique challenges. I'm aware of how Scarborough is developed, the transit challenges that people have, the proximity to jobs and proximity to rapid transit as well, and just the ongoing challenges of increased road space being given to cars, increased traffic, and how people need that mobility to move, and how Scarborough and communities like it really represent our future and our best opportunities to improve how we develop as a province.
Hi, my name is Lorenzo Berardinetti. I'm a resident of Scarborough Southwest. I started politics in 1988 and ran for city councillor for the city of Scarborough, and I was elected. I did 15 years of municipal politics, 9 at the city of Scarborough, 6 at the city of Toronto, the mega city, and then in 2003 I was elected as a Liberal member of Provincial Parliament under Doly Begum, and I've been in that position for 15 years since. So my total political experience is 30 years.
My name is James Speirs, and I'm the Libertarian candidate for Scarborough Southwest. Like most of you, I am a family man, I've had jobs, I've been an employer. The most important thing I can do for the community is that as a Libertarian, like most Libertarians, I'm a bit of a politics junkie. Spend all my time thinking about it, spend a lot of time thinking about how the government operates and how it should operate.
My name is Doly Begum. I'm the NPP candidate for MPP in Scarborough Southwest. I'm a proud daughter of Scarborough. I have grown up here, lived here for about 14 years. I went to school here, St. Agatha Porter. I went to University of Toronto, St. George. I also have a master's in development and planning from University College London. Before getting into politics, I was part of the community, representing people's interests in terms of Wardenwood's Community Centre. I've been a board member there, and we help thousands of people. I've also been the co-chair of Scarborough Health Coalition, helping people with better health care, and I've also managed a province-wide campaign called Keep Hydro Public Campaign, fighting for affordable and public hydro.
My name is Gary Ellis, and I'm running to be your member of Provincial Parliament in Scarborough Southwest. What I believe I bring to the table is this. I grew up in public housing. A lot of good people came into my life. I was blessed. I was a police officer for many years. Very difficult job, working my way to the highest levels of bureaucracy, dealing with many different peoples. I've seen the different issues in the community. I started the mobile crisis units in Scarborough and went to school all the time as a police officer. Got my doctorate. When I retired, I went into service as a professor at the University of Guelph-Humber. I'm now in charge of Justice Studies Department. I absolutely love dealing with the younger people, but I've kept current on the issues. I'm involved now because we need to turn this thing around. I'm in the last part of my life, basically, the last quarter of my life, and this is my last hurrah. I want to make a difference. I made a difference in policing. I made a difference in education, and now I want to make a difference for our future. I recently became a grandfather, and I'm passionate about my child, actually, and my grandchildren growing up with a future. And right now, I don't see the future looks very good in the province of Ontario, although it's a wonderful place to live with wonderful promise. I want to make a difference for their future.
The one thing that, well, there are a lot of things that makes me proud about our community. But if I were to choose just one, I would say it's the people. It's the people in our community that make me so proud. While we may have some of the poorest people living in Scarborough Southwest, there's a sense of Scarborough spirit that, that we have that you cannot find anywhere else. If I were to give you an example of something from home, I saw my dad lending our driveway for a complete stranger because she was in tears after getting a parking ticket. Because she was visiting her parents at Provincial Healthcare. So for more than a year, she was using our driveway to park and then visiting her parents at the Provincial Healthcare. And while I'm knocking on doors, I meet so many people who are showing their act of kindness through so many different ways to help each other, and that makes me super proud.
Well, to be perfectly frank, our area contains a lot of wonderful things, great green space, wonderful businesses. But that's true of almost everywhere in the province, in the country as a whole. What makes this area unique is the particular people who live here. They live here and not anywhere else. And they're the focus.
So this area really is on the forefront of how our city, our province, and our country will continue to develop and look in the future. You have an area that's home to a lot of newer immigrants, that has a higher racialized population relative to a lot of other areas, a lot of the older areas of the city of Toronto, and across the province as well. So this really is, we're ground zero of the province we want to build for all peoples. How do we go about doing that? And this is our best chance, and this is, where we really want to do that, to improve our province and see how the future is going to look.
So the one thing about this area that makes me really proud, and it's actually unique to the area, is this was probably the most diversified area of Toronto as Toronto expanded. The community is diverse, from the beautiful bluffs where you have the older established communities to, as you go north, where you have the blue collar communities, and then the new immigrant communities, and then the new Canadian communities. And it's such a blend of different communities, yet somehow it still works. And the uniqueness of that, I think, makes it a very special place. It's a place where people live, it's a place where people play, yet it's close enough to everything else downtown. And when you go down to that waterfront, it's just like you're somewhere in the country. And I just think it's a beautiful place to be, and I love living here.
Well, it makes me proud is there's a great community spirit here in Scarborough Southwest. There are many different communities here. We live in harmony. It's something I like very much, and also the fact that this is Scarborough Bluffs. We have a beautiful hidden part of Scarborough and of Toronto, Scarborough Bluffs, and the parks. We have many, many parks in the riding, and they're beautiful and they're well maintained.
No, it's an easy one. Like almost everybody else, I've got far more things to do than I've got time to do them, so I would go for super speed.
So if I could have a superpower, or have superpowers, what would they be? I think it's something I've strived for my whole life and never felt I've quite obtained. And it's really three things. Number one, it's wisdom. The wisdom to know the right thing, to do the right thing at all times. And I strive towards it, but fall short very often. And certainly in this role, I think I need a lot of wisdom. And with that wisdom comes foresight, being able to anticipate what needs to happen and the consequences of your decisions. So if you make a decision here, what is going to be the short-term consequence, but more important, what's going to be the long-term effects that are going to affect the future? As I said in one of the other answers, I'm not doing this for me, I'm doing this for the kids. And I think the third thing, superpower I have, is that of influence. If you got the wisdom and the foresight to know what you're going to do, you certainly need the influence to do something about it. And I think, whatever it is, it's the power to be able to bring into action what you know is the right thing. And I'm hoping, and I can't see the future, I don't know where I'll end up, but if I'm elected into this position, that I will have the wisdom to know what the right thing is, the foresight to know the consequences, and at the end of the day, I'll have the influence to be able to make those changes.
Superpower. I think I would choose the power of healing, because I would want to heal the pain that many of us suffer every single day. When I was really young, I saw my dad after a really terrible accident on the ground, on the concrete, and at that time, I think, the one thing that I would have wanted was the power of healing, because that would have healed my family, my parents, my family. My dad was in the hospital for quite a few years. He was in the rehab for quite a few years. And all these years I grew up thinking how amazing it would be to have that power of healing. If I could just put my hand on him and heal him. But since I can't have that, I think I chose the best party that has a great plan to heal people, and that's a pharmacare plan. That's a plan to, for better health care and better seniors care.
Okay, if I had a superpower, it would be omnilingualism, which is the ability to speak in many different languages. Here in Scarborough Southwest, we have many diverse communities that come from all over the world, every part of the world, and they call Scarborough Southwest their home. It'd be nice to be able to converse with them in their own mother language, as it makes a better connection with them and when we welcome them into our community.
I'm always curious where people are coming from in their viewpoints, and I like active debates and active engagements. So the superpower I would be, for being as fantastical as we could be, is to just kind of jump into someone's mind for a moment and understand where they're coming from. Understand their perspective, see, so-called walking a mile in their shoes, to better understand and better engage with the people out there. And I think that's also, if I'm being very fantastical, my superpower, one I could also give to other people as well, such that if I see two people hotly debating an issue and they don't seem to be listening to each other, some kind of snap of the fingers like that, just to allow them to switch for that moment and gain that additional perspective. I think a lot of the challenges we have just come from not seeking understanding and not seeking that opportunity to get to know one another and not having that honest debate and honest discussion and understanding those lived experiences.
Three things I think I would continue to like to continue doing here in Scarborough Southwest is, first of all, make sure that it's affordable to live here. The older residents want to be able to stay in their homes and not be moved into nursing homes, and I think we need to provide them with more help. The new immigrants that come to this community, to Scarborough Southwest, make sure that rent control is enforced and that they can live in affordable housing. The second thing is health care. I think we need to improve and continue to improve health care for people from any age, from being a young child to being a senior. And the third thing here is transit. We want to make sure that transit is available all throughout Scarborough Southwest, whether it be buses, and we have 3 subway stations in Scarborough Southwest, and we make sure that transit is improved and continues to be accessible to everyone here in Scarborough Southwest.
For the 3 things, I think of a report put out by the City of Toronto a couple of years ago, or an agency close to the City of Toronto, called the 3 Cities Report, basically identifying how there are areas in our city where the poor areas are getting poorer and the richer areas are getting richer. And this district has that divide between the two. Along the southern part, along the lake, you have areas that are quite wealthy relative to the mean, and just north of there, north of Kingston, north of Danforth, you have much poorer areas. And so I think as a provincial government, as a MPP, your responsibility is to look out for those marginalized people, those people that need the extra support they can get. And the 3 things that those communities need are better transit, through increasing the subsidies for the City of Toronto to lower the cost of Metro passes or the actual transit lines being built. Good jobs, by providing clean jobs for Ontario to be a world leader in how we continue to develop our technology and export that elsewhere. And I think mental health awareness as well, so that we can invest in healthcare and get people involved in that.
The 3 things I think I need to focus on for this area that need to be achieved, really, one goes to the conceptual basis. The 3 levels of government need to be able to work together, actually 4 when you get to the school trustees, and have some sort of integration of ideas where we can actually make meaningful change. There's very few things in the community that relies on one level of government. So I think one thing I need to really focus on is, and it doesn't matter what party, I'm not really big into party politics, the federal MP, the provincial MPP, the city councillor, the school trustees really have to come together to come up with answers that are outside of party politics. The other thing I think we absolutely need to look at is transportation in this area. This is a transportation corridor. You've got the 401, you've got nothing else. And when the 401 overflows, or even without it, Kingston Road is a corridor, Eglinton is a corridor. We need to come up with answers for this transportation because it's getting worse and worse all the time. Public transit, people are trying to do things. I got the light rail transit. Is that the right answer? I'm not so sure. I think a lot of, there's no long-term foresight. Like when they built the Blue Earth Viaduct 100 years ago, somebody had foresight to put the bridge under it. And I think the third thing we really want to look at is the bluffs. We have to maintain the sanctity of it for the wildlife, for the safety, and to make sure it's secure so we can enjoy it for many years to come.
Well, we're very lucky living in Canada in 2018. We don't face the kind of desperate problems that so many people around the world face. We're not at war. We don't face outbreaks of disease. We don't have really extreme poverty. We do have problems, but our problems are the kind that require dynamic and flexible responses. And these are not things the government's good at.
3 things I would improve. I would improve a lot of things if I take office in Queen's Park. But top 3 things, I think, number 1 is to address child poverty. I think there's way too many children in Scarborough Southwest are growing up in poverty. We have, in Oak Ridge region, 56% of our children are growing up below the poverty line, and that's just unacceptable. The second thing would be to address seniors' care. And that's just not hospitals, but also, proper attention to seniors, our aging population, because they need to be treated with respect and dignity. And the third thing I would do is to bring in better transit. And that's, bringing in the operating subsidy for our transit so that people can get to places on time.
So to nurture community, what we really have to look at is what are our common issues and what are our common values that we look to. And there are several different community associations in the Bluffs area. I think what we need to do is get together and say, what are the things you want to look at? And there are issues. Again, I've talked about the bluffs, I've talked about the wildlife, there's concern of the bats. I know back in 2011 they were going to put wind turbines down there, and I actually went to City Council and spoke to them, and as a result of a lot of efforts they got rid of it. So we need to find these things that will threaten us, but we also need to celebrate our community. I've been involved with the Taste of Lawrence, the Taste of Danforth, wonderful celebrations that bring people together. We've got to look to where can we bring people together, whether huge celebrations or maybe the small pocketed celebrations, but neighbors have to get to know neighbors. There's too many people are locked away playing video games and computers and everything else. So we have to create those opportunities for people to get together. And I think that's about it. I think that's a good start.
The best way I think we can build our community is to make it more affordable. And that means, bringing living wage and decent work for our local economy. We also need to make sure that our children receive the best education, so improving our schools with smaller size classrooms. I would also want to improve, bring in cheaper auto insurance and end discrimination based on postal code for auto insurance. And another thing I would work on is our environment. I think our environment needs a lot more attention so we can save our treasures like the bluffs that we have in this riding. And in turn, you can make life more affordable and build a better community here.
I think it's important to foster a community sense in here. I live in the riding. I've lived in this riding since I've been the MPP. I think it's also important to make the communities here in Scarborough Southwest safe, to interact with the local police, and to be able to make sure the neighbors talk to each other and get to know each other. We have many parks here in Scarborough Southwest, green space, and there's opportunities there for families to meet, young families to meet, and be able to use the playgrounds and other facilities here in this riding. And I think, those are the main points regarding safety in this area.
The best way to build community is to have engagement amongst the community. So as an elected representative, your responsibility is to go out there, talk to the community, help them organize, get them organized in the case of if community associations don't exist. These associations need to outlive politicians. I'm not looking to have subservient community associations that just tell me what I want to hear. Rather, you want to build something that will last, build something that will survive successive governments. And the only way you do that is through talking to your neighbors, engaging with your neighbors, and building with your neighbors, and that's a two-way street from the bottom up and the top down.
Well, the problem is that governments don't create communities. Communities create governments. We live in an age of Facebook, Instagram, email, and text messaging. It's never been easier to reach out to people with similar interests and similar concerns and organize responses to those concerns and interests. The government can only get in the way.
Myself and the Green Party, so the Green Party and I, we represent a positive vision of the province. We're not looking to bring down the others. We're not looking to be your favorite amongst everyone you dislike. Rather, we want to take the long-term vision. Where's our province going in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years? And that's a positive vision that the Green Party is presenting, and one that I'm happy to work for and be a representative on their behalf.
Well, I think a commitment to community service. All my life I've done service for the community, and I've been an elected official for 30 years, 15 as a city councillor and 15 as a member of provincial parliament. I think that experience counts a lot, and being able to serve and help the residents is crucial, and that's why I've been able to get re-elected and stay in power, is by being able to help people in this riding.
Well, if elected, I promise I will work all day, every day, to the limit of my ability to leave you alone.
I want voters to remember my promise, that I will be there, I will show up, and I won't let them down. And I think together change is possible, change for the better.
So on election day, what I would like the voter to remember about me or think about me when they're voting is, I care. Everything I've done in my life, I've passionately cared about what I've done, and because I've cared, I put everything into it, and I do have a history of success. You can look at my bio at garyellis.ca, but it's not a bio to brag on, it's a bio that says I have progressively worked my whole life because I care about things, I care about people, I care about issues, and I want to make a positive difference. I want to leave my legacy behind, even if nobody remembers it's me. 100 years from now, when they look at something that we've done together as a community and with me as an MPP, I want people to say, this is good, this made a difference. And so fundamentally, I want the people to know that they've got somebody who cares. I don't care about being a politician as much as I care about making a change. My future is set for me. I'm in good shape as far as personal, but I do want to make one last hurrah to make this community and the province of Ontario a better place.